Hi guys, Dr. Corbin Pominville here. You're here because you're in pain and you haven't been able to solve it yet. This is because you haven't found the root cause of your pain. Pain is our body's way of saying there's a problem here. Almost always, if pain doesn't go away, it's because there's continued pressure on that area or compression on that area, that tissue. And that tissue in your body isn't allowed to heal up and feel better and less inflamed the way it should. So I put together a video with some explanations on the anatomy and what may be causing your pain to last longer than you'd like it to. Really hope this helps and gets you back to moving better, feeling younger, and being yourself again.
Hi guys, Dr. Corbin Pominville here. I'm back with our third anatomy series on sciatica. I want to take this time to explain what's going on in your body and give you some answers as to why you are having sciatica. So first, let's explain exactly what sciatica is. Sciatica happens when the sciatic nerve gets pinched by the muscles in your hips. So let's go into the anatomy a little bit here. If we remove this, here is the sciatic nerve. Let's actually show just the nerves for a minute, just so we can appreciate that this nerve is the biggest nerve in the entire body. This thing is huge. So if it gets pinched, you can imagine the pain that it could cause, and it could even shoot down the leg. So now, what we're going to do is add a little muscle back. I'm sure you've heard of the piriformis. This is generally the muscle that is causing the pain because it's pinching the nerve right here. So if this muscle is tight, then it can be pinching the nerve, and a pinched nerve is not a happy nerve. It's going to send signals up and down, and it's not going to be good. You might be feeling pain, numbness, tingling, stuff like that. Let's talk about what could actually be causing this. Number one is something like repetitive work, sports, exercise, or other activities. If you're doing these with improper form, that's when the problems arise. So our bodies can withstand quite a bit of activity, but if we aren't doing it with proper form, things can start to break down. So even if your form is 90% correct, if you're missing that last 10%, it can cause problems because it can cause imbalances in the body and muscles will start to tighten up. Another thing that could cause it, and it's very common, is posture. So oftentimes sciatica, especially if it lasts for a long time, it's due to our everyday habits. This can be things like sitting, standing, or walking incorrectly. These are things that we do all day, so if we're not doing them 100% correct, it can cause problems. And especially too much sitting. Too much sitting can make your hips tighten up, especially if you're not doing it correctly. So let's get a little further into the anatomy here. There are 3 anatomical reasons why you may have sciatica. Number 1, the muscles may be tight, and we already talked about the piriformis. If the muscles are tight, it can pull your hips into a position or a tilt that's not optimal. And this places stress on that sciatic nerve because now this muscle is tight, the piriformis, that is. So your hips can either be tilted or they can be rotated. So either one of these is not great. So we want to be in proper alignment. There's other muscles in here that could also be tight. So if we add a couple more here, here's a muscle that can be tight as well. And what this can do, if it's tight, is cause problems around it. A tightness in this muscle, the glute med, can cause a tightness in the muscle next to it. Muscles in your, even up here, in your hip flexors. So if we go ahead and remove some muscle. Here's your hip flexors. If these are tight, it can pull your pelvis into that tilt that we saw earlier, and that can cause problems. So it's not all the piriformis. Usually, sometimes the piriformis isn't the culprit. It's just the muscle that's going to tighten up because something else is wrong. Number 2 reason that you may have sciatica, the bones may be too tight. So something like your hip joint itself, which, let me go in here. The hip joint right here, we have all this connective tissue surrounding it. It can thicken and tighten up. And when that happens, it can cause the muscles to tighten up because they're not in an optimal position. Number 3 reason that you may have sciatica is that the muscles may be weak or not activating properly. If the bones aren't held in proper alignment, especially in your pelvis, here, and here. If these are not held in proper alignment, if they're shifting around, maybe one is rotating forward, one's rotating back, something like that, this can cause pain because everything is now out of line and the muscle on one side will tighten up. We could also have weakness in the glute med. So if the glute med is not working, what the glute med does is it holds the hips up. So as you're walking, you don't want your hips to be falling. If your hips fall, that can get into your back, that can get into other muscles here like your piriformis and make it become tight. So if this is weak, it can cause problems. It could be that muscle. It could also be your core. So your core wraps all the way around to the back here. And if your core is not strong enough, then the lower back can be too loose. And whenever one part of the body is too loose, it can make the part of the body next to it too tight. So if the lower back is too loose because the core is weak, then potentially it can make the piriformis too tight because it's right next to it. So it's important to understand that everyone is different and your sciatica may be due to different things than someone else's sciatica. The way we treat your pain is usually unique to how we treat someone else's pain. And this is why I can't give you an exact formula today on how to solve your pain without evaluating you, because there's a lot of different things it could be. As you guys know, Better Life Health and Wellness specializes in sciatica, hip kind of pain, back pain, things around the hips we're really good at. We've seen a lot of people with sciatica. Right now, we are running a free total body diagnostic where we'll look at your whole body as well as take an in-depth look at your specific problem. So we'll look right at the sciatica as well as the areas around it because we need to make sure that those areas are not causing the pain. We then use hands-on therapy techniques to decrease your pain, loosen you up, and then we use muscle activation techniques where we need to stabilize you and keep it that way. So you may need flexibility in one area and stability in another area, and that's exactly what we figure out during the free total body diagnostic. Feel free to message us on social media. You can text or call us or submit a contact form on the website. Again, I am Dr. Corbin Pominville, and thank you for tuning in.